Hello. So today, sorry, hi Kathy. We're still in the living room. I'm waiting for, it's getting cold and I'm waiting for a good freeze to kill off all the flies in my studio that are getting in there, and hopefully we'll be back up there in a week or so. So this week, oh, look at this. Hang on for a second. I'm under the thumb of an orange-haired authoritarian overlord. I wanted to talk about why we might deviate from the particulars of a subject, modify it, change it, those kinds of things. And why we might do that. Well, for one, we might want to go for a better composition. Or some better shapes, or better colors, those sorts of things. We might want to change that just to get a little more oomph out of the picture. Another ways we might do it, I thought it would be good to broach this subject with trees and foliage because they're what you might call free shapes as opposed to very specific shapes like architecture. And we can change these with a little more freedom and plausibility than, you can only go so far with a building unless you're going to go into like Antonio Gaudi mood. And this is a very busy subject. There's a lot of leaves, there's a lot of little twigs and stems and branches and that kind of thing. So it behooves us to not put everything in there. And then last of all, and maybe most importantly, hi Joey, hi Jan. I've been staring at this and I decided the best way to attempt it is with a wet in wet approach. So in that kind of situation, you're just not going to get, hi Julie, you're not going to have the control that you might have if, you were going at it and trying to draw every little twig and every little stem. We don't want to do that. So how do we start with a thing like this? Well, of course, you're attracted to a subject. Hi, John. This is a place I like to walk in the morning. Same place, a little different angle. Different weather. But you notice there's minor differences. Here we go again. So a little more trees on this side. I find that this is a little too divided. Equal sides right in the middle. This, I like the way that dives down and this brings us back. But the color is maybe not as exciting as, say, these two. I do like this kind of there's almost a heart shape here if you can see it. But I'm going to basically work with this. I might bring this a little bit further out. But since it's wet into wet, and since we are going to change things around for our own benefit. Oh, yeah, take a look at, what was it? Oh, maybe this one. Look at whoosh. The little things like that are just wonderful. So I am going to very generally establish the position of things. That is a key vertical. This area here is, or maybe that area there is going to be something of a key horizontal. So I'm just going to establish a line there and establish well, that's about the halfway mark, isn't it? So we have to be careful to get something a little bit. Notice that this is a little bit over from that. That's a tiny thing, but important. And then this is a very key element. I probably can't see these lines too well. Maybe I'll draw them a little stronger. We're getting something that looks abstract in the sense of, like, say, Richard Diebenkorn. 50s and 60s painters whose composition I have always enjoyed. I like that. It's better than and I'm not drawing things yet. I'm drawing positions. I'm drawing places. Because in abstraction, where it is and the color of it and those sorts of things, and how big is it and what shape is it, that's more important than what it is. And we'll be able to make this look like what it is, but there's glorious, wonderful abstraction in it. I think painters should think more like music. That's why I had some music on when we started there, because music touches us beautifully and strongly, and yet it's not a particular thing. It's itself. It's a total abstraction. Here's a line coming down here, this line there, that line there. These are all things we can line through there like that. All of these lines lead us. And I want us to think more musically, just beauty for beauty's sake. Nelia, hello. Nelia from Moldova is probably the best painter for this sort of thing, so I'm very nervous about painting wet into wet with her watching. So I'm going to get the palette out. I'm going to be working with a fairly simple palette this week. Like I said, I'm going to go wet into wet. So let me use some slightly dirty water so that hopefully, possibly you can see it. So I'm going to wet the whole page. Okay, let's get a little neutral tint, something like that. And the cats are in full vandalism mode in the kitchen. My board is about at a 45-degree angle. Hi, Catherine. Goodness. So it will be staying wetter down here longer than it stays wet up here. So I'm just putting some wet or some dirty water on there. And then I'm going to say yellows and oranges in here. So yellow ochre. Now there's water here already, so I have to be slower moving, creamier paint. A little bit of orange in this area. Now this looks strong, I know. And if need be, I will get my sprayer and keep that going. Rinse that. I am going to bring the blue, a greenish blue made of cerulean and cobalt. And again, slow-moving paint, because there's already water there when I wetted the sheet. And I'm going to bring this down to just touch, just kiss this area here. Now I have a blue and a yellow, and we know that they're going to make something basically green, so I'm going to put the two together. Lisa, hello. Maybe a little more yellow ochre, a little bit of cad yellow, perhaps a little bit of ultramarine. I want something, you notice how it gets kind of greener here. Very big and broad while it's wet. While it is wet. Over here the green changes a bit. beginning to change. It gets browner in there. It gets cooler and bluer yellow in here. So let's get a little yellow. Oh, that's a lot of yellow. Let's get a lot of blue. So this is a stronger green. More blue in it. Notice I'm dipping right into my paint because there's a lot of water here on the surface already. I don't need to bring in additional water. I need to bring in stronger paint. Hello, Asya. More blue. I want these areas down here to be a bluer green. A little bit of that over here too, isn't there? Now, in here, I do have a different blue. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip right into my cadmium yellow, and I'm going to just stick some in there and try and make something that I can later on turn into that. These yellow leaves that are catching the light. Maybe I'll even put a little bit of this back here, just for accent. Rinse that, get the green out. Yeah, the cats, they're everywhere. So I'm going to mop this out, blot it. I want to get more of a purplish blue, ultramarine. Again, this is going to have to be, well, that might be a little too dark. Let's get some water to that. And because I've wetted the sheet already, there's going to be a lot of water there. And as I come down the sheet, I'm going to put a little red in it to make it more purple. A little more red to make it a bit more purple. Whoa, that might be too purple. Let's get some more blue. Stronger blue down here anyway. Come up into here. Leave these little white bits because you might be able to turn them into something later. Now this is very wet, especially at the bottom of the sheet. Taking the moisture out of the brush. I think I'm done with this brush. I'm going to get a brush that holds less paint, which will be this one here, the Oriental brush, which means I'm moving till I wet the sheet, I put paint on it, that brings even more water. So this is a very wet situation right now, and I want to make sure that when I bring more paint in, it's thicker paint. And I don't want to bring something runny into this because it could create a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this blue mixture that I had, maybe put a little more blue in it, very slow moving, see it doesn't move, and some burnt sienna. And I'm going to, in these areas in here, I'm going to try to start introducing these darks. And I'm just looking for where is it? Oops, a little more brown in one end, a little more blue in the other end. Hi, Brent. Oops, too much. A little browner in this end, okay. It's going to be dark there. So you see, this is what I sometimes talk about as the whipped cream into the cocoa. If you haven't heard that before, I talk about if you have a cup of hot cocoa, it's liquid, and if you pour milk into it, that's also liquid, so it disperses, spreads out. Whereas if you squirt whipped cream on it, which is thicker, the whipped cream tends to stay put, but the edges soften. And that's what I'm doing right now. So when I try to pull a reflection here for these branches that are going up here, let's put a little more brown down around here. Now see, this is a more liquid mix of the brown, so you'll see that it's going to drizzle and spread out more than this will. Blot that, get the water out. Going back into the thicker mix. Now I'm going to start doing some of these dark areas in here. So this is whipped cream into the cocoa. Now I should have stopped and said, this very blurry stage, from a musical standpoint, that's large and broad and all over. Hi, Jackie. It's like Brahms, if you listen to a Brahms symphony. And now what I'm doing, I've kind of like done the Largo movement. And now I'm going to try to go into maybe the more, I don't know, the things that are movements and move us through this larger, bigger feel and create a theme. So that would be more like the Andante and the Adagio. So that's what I'm painting now. So I'm trying to move our eye through the painting with some of these lines. Now it's drier up here, so I can get away with painting very specific shapes, because the water is moving downhill. And just as we've talked about in the last weeks, we want to make sure that we space these things irregularly so that they're not too similar. Browner on one side, so that's slow-moving brown. Slow-moving brown. Sounds like a title of a 1970s blaxploitation movie. Can begin to put some of these fun little items in like that. So I'm creating, I hope, some movement through the picture, joining at one area to another. I had that big, broad Largo theme. Now I'm trying to create some themes through here. Now see how it's much wetter down here and how that spreads out? Let's make up a dirty olive green. So I'll put a little brown in this green. This will be not quite as green as the greens I put in there. This will be more like... Now if I'm finding this is getting a little too dry up top, and it looks like it may be, I'll spritz it. Staying far away and get some moisture on the surface there so I can melt this in. Let's make that a little orangier. See, running into wet paint, it disperses more. And if it's too specific, keep it wet. Hi, Patty. Patty is an understander of trees. It's drier up top, it's wetter down below. Our friend gravity is pulling all that off. Get some of the darker, bluer, browner mix. So I'm squinting and I'm constantly thinking about, where am I wet? Pretty much from here down, very wet. So I can start, perhaps, let's get some ultramarine blue, very slow moving, and some alizarin crimson to make a deep violet. And I want to start trying to, while it's wet, create some of these deep dark areas. Maybe if it's a little too violet, I'll put a little bit of brown in there to subdue it. And I'm just squinting and I'm seeing where does a dark appear? Where does it stay light? And all these lovely merging and mingling, that's the water and the paint doing that for me. And I don't have to do anything. It's painting itself. I'm doing this area here. So I'm trying to stay around some of these bright yellows in order to start making it appear to be individual leaves. So I'm negatively painting some of those leaves. Let's get very wet down here so I can touch stuff in and it will melt. I can also create a little bit of texture by splattering. Since it's a very small splatter, I'm going to put it towards the back here. Always make it point to where you want it to go. If you don't want it to go into the sky, don't go like this. Keep it over here. You can get wetter paint. Let's get a non-distinct wetter mix. And so now I'm starting to get into some of these more textural kind of specific marks. This is more of the, I don't know, maybe going from the andante and the adagio to the allegro. So we're going from Brahms to maybe Mozart. Big and broad like Brahms, big and thematic. Oh, it's a strong dark here. Again, there is a lot of what, I'm going to get some green. I'm going to mix a little bit of this dark blue with this green and try to create some of these areas in here. Use every side of your brush. Every side of the brush. And we're thinking completely abstractly. I'm so glad John Carlson is watching, because he is a master of shapes and just placing them somewhere where they do interesting things. And every painting is an abstraction. It's not this place. This place is where I was. That's a photograph. And now I'm making a painting. And both of these are abstractions. They're not the thing. They're not the place. And they need to have a life of their own. In fact, I almost should turn this off and just keep painting here to make, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. I want to really bring this point home. There we go. I want to just look at this, and I want to see, what does the painting tell me? What does it want? Where am I sending your eye? What is the condition of the paper? What looks good in this place, or what looks good in that place? I want a brownish mix up here. Maybe put some orange in it. We've established, I'll go back to it so we can see it. We've established basically what's going on here. We have an orangey brownish thing, we have a bluish thing, we have another bluish thing, we have some greenish thing, we have some yellow greenish things. Now we got some browns and stuff going through here like that. So these things are moving the eye around like music. So let's look at this and let's see what we're doing. Make sure do I want that there? Yes, I think I do. Do I want something here? I think I do. I'm getting a lot of vertical, so I need some horizontal. It's still wet there, so I need thicker paint if I'm going to go here. That's a strong shape. I need that shape. It's one of those things where the tree, let's have one going this way. When the tree falls, they will, you got the one tree like this, and the other tree falls like that and sticks. So wonderful things happen. Now, I'm looking at this. Right now I'm doing primarily burnt sienna, ultramarine blue combinations to get these strong, specific darks. Down here it's wetter, up here it's drier. Always mindful of what's going on. Don't make all of the branches that you show the same color. The ones that are sticking up into the area where the light is happening tend to be more these brownish yellow ochre mixes. Because the light it's early in the morning and the light is getting them. Now down here it's very wet, and I'm looking at it and I can see the glisten is going off, so I can take my fingernail and I can go and try to get some lighter spots like that to get it's a lovely trail that they've created in Fairfield, and it's a walking trail, but it takes a lot of maintenance because trees fall down, and my gosh, I mean, if you're in western Iowa, you know it's getting very windy today, and other parts of Iowa too, for crying out loud. Um, what a month. Stiff, slow-moving yellow ochre for some thin branches, which are farther away, meaning farther away than where we are up close, getting more light, and the spacing and the intervals wide, you know, I don't want to create like so. You want your intervals to be irregular. I might beef up when the brush gets a little drier, I can get a kind of a dry brush mark. Push that with my finger, and it'll look like foliage far away, we hope. So, okay, I think I'm looking at this as an abstraction. I mean, if John Carlson was here, he could help me out with this. It's sort of dry there. I like this Oriental brush because these big mops, they will get so much paint down. And they do this. They carry a lot of paint so you can keep painting and not have to be dipping back and forth. These are a little stiffer, a little firmer, and they don't hold as much paint, but they also make a point, and you can get a big, broad mark like that, but you can get also, when it goes to a point, a little skinny mark like that. And just like I mentioned last week, I try to paint whenever I can the direction that the thing actually grows from its thicker part of the branch to the thinner part of the branch. So I am trying to lead the eye around here. Now obviously that's going to melt away. Let's see. That area right there looks a little blasé. So I'm going to get some turquoise, make a dull bluish green, and I am going to try to send that area back and connect it. Our connectors are very important. Connect the left with the right, connect the bottom with the top, connect things that are disappearing into a soft shape. Those could be leaves, those little splatters. Let's have some up here. They weren't there, but the big composition was this and this and that and that and that. That was the thing that turned my head when I was walking through that area. Let's get some bright yellowish green, very slow moving. Put it out here, perhaps in here. Create some stray leaves. More texture in the front, less texture in the back. More vivid colors in the front, less vivid colors in the back. This area looks a little blobby and it should be more textural, so I'm going to put some marks there to make it a bit more like what I think depart from your subject. That's the theme today. Let's just get some straight up ultramarine blue. Beautiful color. Now, the undersides, it's drier up here, wetter down here. The undersides of the tree will be a little darker, or the undersides of a branch. Linear objects, we don't want to make them the same color all the way down. Now I need a little more, I think, foliage action up there. I mean, twig action or branch action up here, and a little more foliage action down here. So a brighter green to provide a bit of texture there. And then I'm going to get, and this will probably be the last brush. Well, let's see, let's do more of our, while this area is wet, I'm going to rinse this brush good, squeeze it out, and let's try to affirm the flatness of this little stream bed. We're not going to get much lift there. It's wetter down here. Well, I'll have to do that later. Gosh, okay. So, I'm going to get out this little funny brush that it has a big belly and a skinny point. I'm going to get a brownish, ochreish, olive, kind of runny. Makes very thin lines. Yeah, let's get a little darker brown here. So I've got that, I've got that. Let's get something a little more. You see too many verticals, go for some horizontals. If you see too many horizontals, go for some verticals. At the lower part of the branch, it will tend to be thicker and darker because the light is coming in from the top. Thank you, Jan. I'm going to try to obey my paint it the way it grows. Be mindful of the fact that you're not equalizing your spaces between these things. So I think I could be a little thicker and darker on one of these. So I'm going to pull it, and then as I get to the bottom, I'm going to push down on the brush and see how it gets thicker. That needs to have a analog. So close here, wide there. Close, something like that. Close, wide. Down here, there's a lot of downed. Oh, it's still wet there. Now, the reason that works, if you haven't heard me say it before, is the water has soaked below the surface of the paper and the pigment is on top, but it's still wet. And therefore you can move it. So you can scrape out a light spot and put a dark bit underneath it. And the Transparent Watercolor Society of America will not dock you for using gouache. Let's get a more orangey, runny mix. The other thing you can do with this brush, if you blot it out, if you get some runny paint and blot it out a bit, is you can suggest lots of twigs by using the side of this thing and rubbing it. Any brush pretty much will do that. This one does it rather crazily, which is something of a benefit. So at this point, I think I want to, well, okay, let's see what else we're doing. At this point, I think I want to take the tape off so that I have a border that I can see and see if that tells me anything, and it usually will. So it's like putting a mat on the thing. So right away I can see I want to make a little more of that branch of whatever it is that has the red berries out there in the woods. Let's get a clip. And we'll work inside the picture at this point. Okay, a little bit in there. So, whoa, come back. Let's see. There we go. Sorry about that. That's our ad hoc downstairs. It's almost like working outside. Okay, I need to make this area a little more distinct or separate. Squinting like crazy, making sure that I don't create a problem. Very important in this image that my strokes be very irregular and organic. I think I need a little more darkness back there. I'm just going to do it with some blue mixed into whatever's available here on the palette so that it's kind of not strikingly blue, because I want to move the eye from here to here. Oh, listen to that wind coming up. Oh my goodness. It's there. Let's have some, I want some clean blue, cleanish blue, coming under here, indicating sort of a shadow or a reflection of that thing. I think I want to have, okay, blue, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna. Something coming out of the front here. That lovely curve there. I want to echo it in the reflections. And right now, I think I'm at the point where I might actually stop and consider. It's a little more brown, a little more. This, some of these branches here need so thicker paint. They need to be a little bit more assertive. Perhaps that one too. Something coming in there like that. And no, it does not look like, it's not an exact copy of this, but it's a plausible copy of that. You can see it's much busier up here than I have. I wonder if do I really want to add that? This is an important stage. I cannot emphasize this much. When is enough enough? It's enough when it's saying that, the experience that you had when you walked there. Don't become like a billionaire that I need more and I need more and I need more, or like a hoarder who, just keeps loading up their trailer with junk. It's basically two different ends of the economic spectrum, but my God, it's the same problem in my eye. So I'm going to put a little bit of yellow, bright yellow. This is cad yellow. I'm going to glaze that area back there because I want it to be kind of brilliant and pull your eye back as if the light is coming up at that time of day and just starting to strike some of those things. Maybe a little more bluish green or turquoisey green back around here. So they stay back there and this comes out front. Perhaps a little bit of orange. Well, no. State your big themes. Be like Brahms. There's a time to be Brahms and there's a time to be Vivaldi. So we need to have this thing in the foreground, so it has to be solid here, as does that and that. So what I did there, it was about the same strength as its reflection, so it needs to be a little stronger than its reflection. That's very important. So I think this is where I want to leave it, because it recreates the experience that I felt like I had. Possibly. I might have a little bit more. Get into this loose brown. Ooh, too much water. A little bit more Vivaldi or Mozart up here. Okay, that's it. So the big ideas today. The big ideas are depart from your subject on the minor particulars. Pay homage to it on the big things. That's a big thing, got it in there. That's a big thing, got it in there. That's a big thing, got it in there. This is a big thing, got it in there. Might have been better taller. I liked it better taller, so there. Big thing, blue, greenish blue, purplish blue, orangey ochre, yellow green. That's your Brahms part. Big blue, blue, orange, yellow green. Then, okay, andante, adagio. Start putting in these things like that move. They're the movement parts of the composition. They're moving us through the picture. They're directing the viewer's eye around this experience. It's a complete abstraction. It's a bunch of branches. It's a bunch of leaves. But it was a walk in the woods, and it was a gorgeous day, and water and sky and branches and trees and living things and birds and I saw minks down there one time, looking for whatever was in the water. Who knows? But hopefully that gets it across. Look for the big themes. Think about, do I need to do that wet and wet, or can it be done wet on dry? Then look for the things that move our eye through the picture, and orchestrate. It's a piece of music. Literally, it's like a piece of music. Orchestrate the viewer's eye path. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I had fun with it. It's wonderful walking in this place. And I think I've got one or two more tree-type subjects, but different than what we've done these last couple of weeks here. So thank you for tuning in. Stay safe, stay sane, and stay warm. Bye-bye.